Today's webinar is being recorded. I just pressed the recording button right now, so we will begin recording now. I should have pressed it before roll call. I apologize. Please use the chat option to ask a question, or wait until the end of until the question answer section. So if you think of a question, you want to write it down real quick, you can go ahead and plug it into the chat. Otherwise, as I said, periodically we will stop and have kind of a question answer list to keep going. All right, we are going to be using Mentimeter today. This I thought would just be a fun way to kind of break it up, where you're not just sitting there listening the whole time, but actually engaged. And so we're just kind of going to have a couple fun questions throughout it. And then I have a survey at the end I'd like you guys to complete to let us know how this went with doing virtual meeting. So the code for today is, oh, why is it not pulling up? There we go. So if you could pull out your phone right now, and I want you to go to menti.com. I realize if you are on your cell phone for sound, you might not be able to participate, but you could use a computer for this also. So if you go to menti.com and you just put in 280638, and then you'll hit submit, and you're all set up and ready to go. And you can actually also view the presentation this way. So if you are located somewhere where you're having to use your phone to access the presentation, one, I had emailed it out as a PowerPoint, but this way you can also, when you put in that code, it should pull up the full presentation. So you'll be able to see what my screen sees. All right, so let's give it, I'm going to unmute everyone just so for any kind of troubleshooting. Let's just give it a shot using, so everyone's unmuted right now in case you're having issues with Menti. So let's just give it a shot with a fun question. So how has your workspace changed over the past few weeks? It has not, as in you're still working regularly from your office or wherever that might be. It's much quieter with less people in the office, so maybe some people have left, but you're still there. More homey. You're working from home. Like right now, I have a dog snoring next to me, or way louder with the kids off of school. All right, and it looks like almost everyone is able to engage via Menti. I still see it coming in. It says we have 27 people in GoToMeeting and 22 people have answered. So, all right, I am going to put us back on mute since it seems like everyone's good, and we'll keep on going. All right, so let's get started with our actual content. So for those that have not gone through the project prioritization called a project process, or for those that just need a refresher, kind of the process that we go through is we develop our long-range transportation plan every 5 years, and that kind of creates the plan or outline that then we're going to be following. And those projects identified in the long-range transportation plan then get fed into our project priorities list, which is right now what we're in the process of developing via the call to projects this year, as well as also, as you've seen in our past meeting or at our TAC or board meeting, that we've been reorganizing the project prioritization process. The project priorities then gets basically fed into the Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, and basically those are the projects that were taken from the project priorities and actually had money applied to them or funded, and so then they get put into the 5-year TIP. So here's a fun question that just to kind of give you an idea of what the TIP has inside of it, is between the years of 2020 to 2024, Space Coast TPO TIP has blank amount of money in federal, state, and local matching funds for all modes. So just this was to give you an idea that the TIP includes all, not just the federal funding that goes that, you know, will be applied to our project priorities, but also state and local matching funds, and it includes all modes. So we're looking at you know, transit, port, and other modes in the space, and it's not just roads that we're looking at. And Georgiana, I'm going to unmute you in case there's anything that you'd like to add to this. Let me find you. There you go. All right, Georgiana, you're unmuted. So would you like to tell us the answer and if there's anything else you wanted to talk about?
I believe the answer is 862 million. I don't have it right in front of me. I apologize.
You're right.
Is that correct, Sarah?
Yeah, I did round up. I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Which, you know, as you mentioned, is for all modes, and I think, you know, I love that you put that in as a question, because there's a lot of money coming into Brevard County, and again, it's not just capacity. It is, you know, all the different. It includes maintenance. It includes bridge repair, aviation, seaport, airport, and bike ped, as well as safety improvements and you know, a whole host of other types of maintenance, just routine maintenance. So, and complete streets, I might add. So a lot of money coming into Brevard County. So I think it's a very good question.
Well, thank you, Georgiana. And so basically, so I just muted you back, just to keep background noise down. So basically I wanted, you know, to be able to show you guys that the tip is really where the money meets the project priorities. So now we're going to move along and actually talk about our call for projects. And so what we're going to go through is directions and information on how to apply and what you need to know in order to apply, and also what the process is going to look like this year and kind of what the final outcome came from our previous meeting, and then our board and committee presentation on the project prioritization process. So at this time, I'm actually going to hand it off to Jamie. So Jamie, I'm about to turn you into the presenter. And let me make sure you're unmuted. Okay, yeah, it unmuted you.
Okay.
All right, so Jamie is our FDOT liaison, and she's going to take over and talk about the FDOT side of the project prioritization process and call for projects this year, as well as also the new LAP guidelines that have been established. So Jamie, if you're good, I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear any of my background noise and let you take it away.
I do have a question.
Oh, yeah.
It's my first virtual presentation. I'm trying to, do I need to bring up the presentation on my side or?
Yep. If you just want to pull up do you have your PowerPoint pulled up?
I will get it. Hold on, bear with me. I apologize. Gotta close all these windows. Here.
And Jamie, I see your screen, so I think you're all good. So I'm gonna mute myself. So.
Okay, that's fine.
Anything on my end?
Let's see. Shoot. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. All right. So I'm just going to go over, it's just an overview of the same presentation that was provided on the February 6th GoToWebinar that DOT did for the D5 Local Agency Information Forum. So it's just a modified presentation from that, and we'll just step right in it. So this is the timeline for the development cycle and programming expectations. As you can see, July 1st, the list of priority projects is to be developed and consistent with the project applications. The type of project, schedule, and estimate. Project applications, years 1 through 3, are to be detailed and completed enough to pass a preliminary department review prior to intake and programming. Now, early August meetings, we're going to have the intake meeting. DOT will discuss project applications with agencies and the MPO-TPO's priority list. And programming meeting will be DOT meeting with the MPOs to discuss the list of priority projects and the SU programming requests.
Hey, Jamie.
Mid-August. I'm sorry?
Could you hit slideshow and make your slides full screen? I think it might be easier for people to read.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, Biggie. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, so now we are here. All right. So work program forms processed by DOT liaisons based on the preceding activities in assurance that all action items have been completed prior to programming deadline. SU funds will be applied as requested. Any remaining funds within the years 1 through 3 of the work program development cycle will be programmed on priority projects identified within the list of priority projects. So now we're going to discuss some of the local agency programs, the LAP guidelines that were just implemented. The department revised the title of our document from a policy to guidelines to clarify that we are not making any changes to the policy set out in the LAP manual. The LAP manual has intentional gray areas to allow the district flexibility to meet the needs of their program while remaining within the confines of the federal regulations and requirements. The district's intent from beginning has been to formally document how we operate in those gray areas with the goal of reducing informational gaps both within the district and the local agency partners. Speaking of from the beginning, let's take a moment to look back at the efforts that have gone into developing these guidelines. The guidelines that were put out have been in the making for a long time. This documenting the process is so everyone understands the expectations, sorry. So the guidelines have been divided into 6 parts. Parts 1 through 4 tie directly to the chapters in the LAP manual. In addition, the functional LAP components, we compiled essential department information that is necessary for successful delivery of the LAP projects, which I will discuss later. These appendices address the concerns of a lack of understanding or shortfall of information as it relates to the development of the department's work program, programming expectations, and work program calendar key dates. Part 1 of the guidelines, local agency program certification and performance management, ties to Chapter 2 of the LAP manual. This section confirms that the district reserves full certification for agencies within the district that have demonstrated appropriate staff qualifications and capability, having met performance expectations required for the LAP for 3 years certification cycle. It defines limited experiences as successful administration of 3 or less federal aid projects within 3-year period, or non-producing 3 or more projects within 3-year period. Finally, it confirms that we certified an agency must demonstrate that they met staff qualifications. agency or agencies with past LAP projects must have met the performance expectations required for LAP projects administration as identified within these guidelines and within the LAP manual. Part 2, training, also ties to Chapter 2 of the LAP manual. We received a significant number of requests for additional training as well as varied formats of training. This was valuable information, and we are excited to supplement the training that is available required through the LAP manual with the district. Go-to meetings, online meetings, webinars, online forums, lunch and learns, computer-based training modules. This meeting is able to be held in a webinar format versus in person, based largely on the feedback. Like I said, this is all from the original meeting that took place on February. So we're going to go ahead and proceed to part 3, which again relates to LAP Manual Chapter 2, focuses on compliance. We received a lot of positive feedback regarding the project, task teams, and quarterly meetings, so that has remained a part of the guidelines. We also heard that we often reference meeting performance expectations, but that is not clear what those expectations are. Part 3 incorporates agency performance expectations, which include the following items: agency commitment, representation, establishing and maintaining lockdown commitments, complete and maintain project schedules, adhere to set milestones, due dates, lockdown commitments, production, development. Part 4, programming, moves away from Chapter 2 of the LAP manual, connecting to Chapters 5, 10, 18, 19, and 21. For the sake of time, I'm going to focus on the most significant changes in these guidelines versus the previous published policy. We received robust feedback regarding the district's decision to limit programming to construction phase only. This was based on the practices of District 4, but we heard very loud and clear that this was not a good fit for District 5 agencies. Many of you agree that placing a minimum threshold on construction made sense, and a recommendation that we consider doing the same for all other project phases. The guidelines confirm that the district will continue to program design right-of-way and construction CEI. Based on your recommendations, each phase will be subject to a minimum threshold, which will be $250,000 per phase. Although the district will no longer be programming study phases, we will continue to provide technical support when requested. It is important to keep in mind if a local agency has a major project that requires a PD&E and want to remain federally eligible for a future phase, coordination with the district and PD&E should occur. Now we're going to go over some of the programming highlights. CEI contracts. So use of the CEI, the contracts, the district's CEI contracts shall be discussed with the LAP administrator prior to programming of the projects. Use of the contracts only relieves the agency's procurement requirements and responsibilities. The agency shall have a plan that outlines the commitment to complete all phases of the project. This outline will be the basis for which the project will be programmed. Project phase estimate must be provided and accepted by the district prior to programming. So CEI, there is no minimum threshold. Programming as long as the minimum threshold for construction programming is met. Initial CEI programming will be based on the current CEI estimate if available. If a current CEI estimate is not available, the first table showing from the work program instructions here will be utilized to determine the CEI programming amounts. Programming for construction, the initial programming for construction will be assigned in the latter years of the department's 5-year work program. In general, the table shown at the bottom shows the following year's targets that will apply depending on when the design begins and design development progresses. Once programmed, to remain on the production path, design status must progress to the completion level shown in the table: 30% completed at the end of year 3, 60% designed by the end of year 2, and 90% designed by the end of year 1. This includes plans updates when needed, or successful progression of the plan's development as dictated by the project schedule. Projects programmed in years 1 through 3 will require yearly estimate updates. During the department's annual work program development cycle, if a project design has not reached the appropriate design status as noted in the table, construction will be deferred to the last year of the 5-year work program. Current year programming or first year construction advancement will be considered by the district once the contract plans, approved plans, specifications, and estimate package certifications and bid package documents have been completed and accepted by the district. Part 5 outlines how and when an agency can request an expectation to the guidelines, or exception to the guidelines, apology. Expectations requests shall include, at a minimum, the following information. What exception is being requested? Who is requesting the exception? Why is the exception being requested? How will the project proceed if the exception is not granted? Approvals will be considered by the district secretary prior to the programming during the development of the 5-year work program through the cycle that was presented earlier in this webinar. Part 6 simply outlines the guidelines will be updated on an annual basis by the district. Updates may stem from LAP manual updates, collaboration with our partners, and/or department modifications for the objective of delivering LAP projects in more expeditious and efficient manner. In accompanying appendices, which I will discuss in a moment,
Jamie,
are subject to change.
Jamie, I think we just lost your presentation.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, there we go. All right, we're good.
Sorry about that. So the company appendices, which I will discuss in a moment, are subject to change at any time. Should you have any comments or suggestions for the guidelines, you can provide those to me or the district LAP administrator. The 6 parts we just discussed represent 7 pages of the 52-page guidance document. The majority of the document focuses on providing references to better understand the department's process and major impact areas within the LAP program. Our biggest takeaway from the open comment period and incubator workshop is that the district repeatedly talks about things such as work program development cycle and lockdown. But there is no place that you, as a local agency staff, can go to get a better understanding what the terms mean, why they are important, and how the district approaches them. We realize cycle components. the flow of the application intake programming, the process for lab certification, and how lockdown is established. Realizing that different people have different ways of visualizing information, we've tried to provide in a different format, some with limited detail and others with significant detail. Additionally, with the help of some of our subject matters experts, created reference materials related to the right-of-way acquisition, environmental activities, as well as consideration related to the LAP agreement and how LAP agreement activities tied to the lockdown. We created various project schedule templates that summarizes the activities by phase that go into meeting lockdown. We've tried to address as many elements that impact the lockdown as possible in an effort to answer, why is my project schedule so important? Last, but certainly not least, we have provided a sample project finance plan, which we hope will be a resource for you when applying for projects. While we intend to review, update the 6 main parts of the guidelines annually, these appendices may be modified at any time in an effort to provide the most up-to-date, meaningful reference information. The lab guidelines are available at the following website. An email address for the lab applications is the D5 lab apps at dot.state.fl.us. Now I can be more than happy to help with any questions that you might have. Okay, so last presentation.
Oh, I just realized I'm muted. I didn't get unmuted when I. Okay. Apparently, it didn't unmute me when I unmuted everybody else, so you guys just didn't hear me. So I did not see any questions show up in the chat box during the presentation, but I have taken off mute, and so you can ask questions of Jamie now if you have any. If not, we can keep going on, but you're unmuted. All right, I'll give it just one more second, and just because I don't want to cut anyone off in case they're trying to get unmuted or something.
Sarah, I would just like to mention, what is significant about what Jamie said is that if a off-system project needs a PD&E or a corridor study, the department is, they are not going to be handling, they're not going to be handling or administering off-system projects for LAP. So that is something that the local government really needs to think about and take into account. Yes, we as your local planning agency could certainly do corridor studies. We do them all the time, but we have to plan for that. We have to have the money for it incorporated into the UPWP and make sure we have the staff to handle it. Traditionally, we have not administered PD&E studies. We can certainly do it, but it's just not something that we've done because there's such large studies. So as new projects are entering the priority list, keep that in mind, all of our municipalities, that is something that the district is wanting to deliver on the local level and not through the DOT anymore. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Georgiana. All right, well, if there are no more questions for Jamie or for Georgiana regarding the LAP policy, then we're going to move into the project priorities methodology. I'm going to mute everybody for background noise. All right. So, as you know, we've been going through this process since August in regards to creating the project priorities methodology. And it was just adopted during our March meeting by our board, and after it had already gone through our BPAC as well as our our technical advisory committee and our citizens advisory committee. And this group had also previously received the presentation and then was able to make comments. So what we ended up with was we were able to take all of the comments into consideration, and what we were able to do is basically create a final ranking that would involve 3 different types of scores. The first one would be quantitative score, and that's based on the criteria that we've previously presented to this group as well as to our boards and committees, and we had made edits based on this group's suggestions. And that would basically provide each project with a score of 0 to 100. Then there would be a qualitative score, because we recognize that data and statistics doesn't always cover everything. And so this qualitative score would give an opportunity to add more of a qualitative standpoint to a project. So it would be 0 to 15 points would be available. We chose 15 points because that was enough in order to move a project out significantly. Is basically, if you were to look at what the 10th project is on our priority list, give it 15 points, it would then become the first. And we felt that was a good range based on the number of projects on the priority list at this time. That would be based on a consensus recommendation of the Transportation Subcommittee. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. And then finally, there would be discretionary ranking, where the committees and board could make a motion to move a project based on consensus. So basically, we ultimately could come up with a list, but at the end of the day, with the Transportation Subcommittee, everyone would be happy with it. We take it to the board, and they say, we really want to move Project 3 to number 1. And as long as there was consensus, the board has ultimate approval. That's part of what our board does. So I know we previously talked about this, but I just wanted to review what we finally ended up with at the end of it, is that the project has to be eligible before it can go into the list. So first, is it within the long-range transportation plan? Is it, if it is a roadway, is it on the functional aid system? I say, is it a roadway because obviously a trail or a sidewalk that doesn't apply to. Is it ready to be implemented within the next 5 years? We don't want to be putting projects that ultimately can't or won't be implemented for the next 10 years on our list. Is the project consistent with the local government comprehensive plans? Does it have local support? So those kind of could be one and the same of is it, within the local government comprehensive plans, or does it have local support in some other way, such as a resolution through your board or committee? Has the public been informed or engaged? This is not a requirement. It's just basically something to kind of start judging the readiness of a project. And if the project is off the state highway system, is the agency certified to perform a LAP project? And if they aren't, do they have an agreement with another municipality that can be LAP certified in order to administer the project? So I'm going to take everyone off of mute. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take everyone off of mute, and we're going to really quickly just do kind of a gut test on where we're at using the Menti, and also just kind of give everyone a little break. Get you involved. Make sure everyone's still awake. I realized you were all hearing my dog snore, and that might have started putting you to sleep. All right, and of course, yes, the answer is all the above. It has to be in the long-range transportation plan, ready to be implemented in the next 5 years, have local support, and among many other factors. So I'm going to jump into the screening criteria. I'm going to pop you guys on mute again. All right, so the full screening criteria can be found on our website. And we'll go over our website because we've kind of done a big overhaul of the Project Priorities website this year at the end of the meeting. So just instead of going through every single one of the factors, since it has been sent out to this group on multiple times at this point, basically the main themes are safety, targeting the high crash and high speed corridors to address our largest safety concerns within the county, transportation and land use. This is basically to help improve the access to your community resources, such as your schools and your libraries and your parks, your activity centers, and the economic drivers and tourism throughout the county. Sustainability and resiliency, improving the drainage, stormwater, water quality, and making considerations in things like sea level rise and other resiliency factors. Innovation, does the project improve the travel time reliability, or is it using a unique solution such as ITS? Multimodal, basically this is making sure that the projects, or looking at if the project addresses bicycle, pedestrian, and or transit needs, so something other than a car is being addressed within the project. So through this criteria, we were then able to create basically our new project application. So this is what it looks like, or this is what the PDF version looks like as the first page. And then we also wanted to make it as easy as possible for the municipalities to submit an application. And so we developed the project application form resource packet. And so basically everything within that resource packet is what you need in order to fill out the application. So you really shouldn't have to look at anything else other than the resource packet to find all the information to fill out the application. And then obviously your name and email. So within that resource packet, it has the federal aid mileage report, functional classification map, speed limit, number of lanes, VOC, the state of the system, top 25 list, evacuation route map, ITS master plan priority list, bike ped master plan, showcase and regional trails. And if you absolutely cannot find anything, find something that in order to fill out your application, you of course can email myself or Laura at any time. We're always available to help. So that basically covers the quantitative scoring, is looking at that criteria in the resource packet and filling out that application. That then so that's your first 0 to 100 points. That then leads you into the qualitative scoring, which is that 0 to 15 points based upon a consensus recommendation of the Transportation Subcommittee, so this group here. So in order to pursue a qualitative score, you need to let the Space Coast TPO staff know that you would like to pursue a qualitative score, because basically the way we're going to do it is we're going to give whoever would like to pursue it will be given 5 minutes in our June meeting, and basically to explain why they should explain the project and explain why it should receive a qualitative score, and then this group will be able to say yes or no. We feel they should get a qualitative score. We feel they should only get 7 points or 6 or 15 or what it is. But basically this group will come to a consensus. So that June 11th meeting it's really meaningful if you feel like your project is not ranked where it should be. This is where you get to have your voice heard and it's not kept within this data bubble of the quantitative. So what if you're not planning on to apply for a new project, but you already have a project on the priority list? So you still need to do a couple things this year because of the new project priority list process and list. What you need to do is review the list of project priorities to ensure that the projects are still relevant and up to date. Please review the scoring matrix, which I will show you on our website where that is towards the end of this. So review the scoring matrix to ensure the project has the correct quantitative score. It's possible that me or Laura we made a mistake while we were scoring. So, we're human, and we, had to look at over almost 50 projects. And so, please make sure that we didn't make an error. If there is an error, or if a project needs to be changed in some way, contact staff. And then finally, if you have a project already on the priority list, you also can pursue the qualitative score. You just need to let us know. All right, I didn't see any questions pop up in the chat box, but I'm going to turn you off of mute to give everyone an opportunity to, all right, you should be off of mute now. So does anyone have any questions about the scoring and the process?
Yeah, this is Christy Fisher. I do have a question about, I thought that quantitative scoring was going to be less than 100, but you guys are saying now that you can score up to 100 points and then possibly ask for, the qualitative points in addition to that by doing a presentation. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct. Yep. No, I don't believe any of the projects currently have made the 100 points, have gotten 100 points. But basically the available points in the quantitative section is 100.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. All right, I'm just going to give it one more second just to make sure no one's trying to get a phone to work or something. All right, I'm going to put everyone back on mute. And of course, if another question comes up, you can use the chat box. All right, so now that we understand how this process is going to work, I wanted to walk you through actually how to submit a project and walk through the website. Because, as I said, we've done quite an overhaul. There's a lot of information on the website now. So if you go to our website, you of course have to put in SCTPO.com. That'll bring up our website. You then want to scroll over the projects and studies right there. You'll click down. That'll bring up this drop down, and then you'll click on project priorities right there. It's the second one down. That will then take you to this screen. And so basically this is what it should look like. It'll say project priorities at the top and then contact. If you scroll down, there we go. If you scroll down, what you want to do is you want to come to this section that says the 2020 call for projects. It's a big green button basically. And it gives you kind of information, and then it starts so it has the call for projects directions and information. That is the document that was sent out back in February along with the FDOT application and that basically outlined what the call for projects this year will be. So it's a really good resource and basically kind of outlines all this. If you keep scrolling down, you will find the directions for submitting a new project. The first step that you will need to do is fill out the FDOT project information application form. This has not changed. This is the same application form that everyone has been expected to fill out, previously. It looks like this. So I'm sure many of you are already familiar. It is a Word document. And then if you keep scrolling, you'll come to step 2. And that's basically, this is the new part, is step 2. So you have several resources. You have the SCTPO project application for Word, and then the one for PDF. We recommend you use the one for PDF because it auto tallies all of your points, and as well as also formatting. Is if you mess too much within the Word, you could mess up the formatting, and it can get a little bit wonky looking. So the PDF is definitely the cleaner way to go. Then underneath that is the resource guide that I mentioned. So once again, that should provide you with everything that you need in order to fill out the project application. And then the project priority screening criteria, so actually what the matrix of the criteria that equals that 100 points. And then also we've included the 2020 draft priorities detailed scores. So basically this is all of the lists, all of the current priorities have already been scored. And so if you have a project already on the list, you need to click on that link and go check the scoring to make sure that we didn't miss something or that something hasn't changed or about the project. So kind of the steps that need to happen is submit all your completed applications by May 29th, and inform the TPO staff if you would like to pursue a qualitative score by May 29th. Where are we checking? Hold on, I just had a... Where are we checking / what link on the score of an existing project? So Christy, if you, on the project website, this bottom item right here, the 2020 draft priorities detailed scores, if you click that hyperlink, it'll pull up a matrix of all of the existing projects and the scores for them. Let me move my chat box out of the way now. I can't see what I'm... So submit applications, inform TPO staff, and then, of course, attend the June 11th meeting. At the June 11th meeting, we'll have all the new projects integrated within the current projects and scored out, and that will really be the time in order for us, at that meeting, we will be finalizing the Transportation Subcommittee's recommendation to our board for the adopted priority list. So the next steps, as I already mentioned, applications are due, Transportation Subcommittee approval of the draft priorities as well as those qualitative scores. June 17th, we'll be holding our annual open house, so the project priority list will be presented to the public then. June 29th, it'll go to our BPAC. July 6th, the TAC-CAC. July 9th will be the board of adoptions, and then it will be submitted to FDOT for the monies to start being applied. All right, so we're going to pause right there, and we're basically done. Let me turn everyone off of mute, and let's stop and do a Mentimeter just to make sure everyone's still with us. And I have there we go. So this one's a little different. When are applications for new projects due and edits to current projects due? So this one you actually have to type in. So I wanted you guys to practice the typing before we get to the kind of the survey I have at the end to let us know how we did with the virtual meeting. All right, very good. It looks like everyone knows. May 29th, that's the very important date to remember. All right, so I think I addressed the only question we received in the chat box. Are there any other questions about this year's process or where information can be found on the website? And of course, as I said, is at any point in time, you can email Laura and I for help with your applications or questions, or if you just want us to look over the application, we're here to help you. So Laura or Georgiana, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I don't have anything, Sarah. I think you did a great job. I appreciate everyone's time.
All right, so that's basically all we have today. we have a lot of information out there on the website. Oh, also the FDOP calendar that Jamie showed you, the schedule is also available on that same webpage. So if you guys could just take a couple minutes to provide us with some feedback questions, since this was our first virtual meeting done this way, and so we really want to know, how can we make this better, as well as also, so the first question is, are you planning to submit an application this cycle? And so we're just wanting some feedback on what we can expect this year. All right, it seemed to have slowed down, so I'm going to go to the next one. So did you find this virtual meeting helpful? How can we improve virtual meetings in the future? I'm sorry, you will have to make your own coffee. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just going to give it another minute since this one you have to type in. Oh, here we go. All right, good notes. We can definitely for the future be a little bit more detailed. And yes, I heard the music prior is noted. There were several people I heard that from. So. All right. Well, thanks for all the feedback, guys. We will definitely take all of this and any future webinars that the TPO does and be able to apply them and keep the things you liked and fix the things you didn't. All right, and then finally, and you do not have to answer this if you don't want to. You can privately email me or Laura, but if you feel that this year you would like a one-on-one meeting regarding your projects, please let us know so that we can get that set up. It will be a virtual meeting as we are currently not holding face-to-face meetings, but we would be happy to get it set up with you, and now you've gotten to experience our new meeting platform.
And Sarah, I would also just add, it can be regarding new projects or existing projects. If you all just want to chat as to, where the project is on the funding, and, where we go next. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, and you need to put in your name. Sorry, I cannot see who put it, who put the comments. I apologize. I should have been clearer. Okay, all right. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Todd. Got you.
Good morning, everyone. This is Laura Carter. I just wanted to remind everyone, if you have a project that's already been submitted and has been scored and you're reviewing the scores, there are, just for reference also, it does give DOT guidance, but just because a project may be ranked number 12 does not mean it won't receive funding, that they're only going to fund the top 5. It's just a matter of giving us some kind of guidance on where our project DOT. Certainly we have some smaller projects that are very worthy but just don't score high because of the nature of what they are. There's an SU that would be eligible for them.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Laura, because just as a reminder, the TPO's TMA funding, it's the fund code that we refer as SU, the federal money. That is really a recommendation, from the Transportation Subcommittee. And so that's where the qualitative score really comes into play. So, of course, being number 1 and at the top of the list is extremely important when it comes to state road projects. Department and off system. I mean, the department wants to know what is your number 1 priority. It has always been that way, but we do have some flexibility. So just, what Laura said is very true.
I just saw Christy's question pop up in the chat box, but will the project receive less funding based on the score? No, the score does not reflect the percentage of funding that a project can receive. I believe that answer. Okay, thanks. Okay. All right, well, I have Christy, Matt, Todd, and Alex written down. If anyone else later gets off, reviews the current project priority list, or at any point in time you need any aid or assistance, please don't hesitate to email us. We're always available. We might not be in our physical office right now, but I can tell you that, I know instantaneously when I've received an email. So thanks, everyone, for taking the time this morning, and everyone stay safe out there.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.